we made it out of bronze. We're in silver, boys. Silver 3, let's go. You don't need to do that drone splitting jazz that I just did. All right, so we can take our overlord centered across. Set up our camera locations. Overlord, overlord, overlord. Always, guys, what are we doing? Oh, we don't need to do that doubling up shit. That's, oh, I shouldn't even be doing that. That's for later. That's for later, okay, guys? That's so unimportant. That's just me subconscious habits. Okay, so, maybe, I think we're gonna try to introduce scouting in this game on the most basic level, okay, guys? So, what is the most basic level of scouting? It's literally, we already talked about map control. We're going to try to build a pair of Zerglings early on to make sure we actually set up some Zerglings outside their base to see if they're coming. Because we saw in that last game, hey, they can kill our Overlord. Overlord's good, but if we can add some Zerglings, what's really good is, because sometimes your Overlord's sitting on the pillar, it doesn't get attacked. So they might move out and you might not even see it. The good thing about having a Zergling outside their map, outside their base on their side of the map, is when they move out, their units are going to kill it, and you get a warning. So putting a super big brain opponent won't even kill your unit. They're just going to be like, I'm going to walk past that. And then you're there, and you're like, what? I didn't get a warning! Your Zergling's chasing their army, hitting them, and you don't even notice. And you're like, oh, he cheated, man. He didn't attack my warning. The whole point is you're meant to kill my Zergling, so I know when you're coming. Okay, guys, so we've got a queen on the way. 21 overlord after that queen. Let's put these overlords out front the base. And remember, we centered the camera location, and we've sent rally point there. Why? Because we've got 16 on minerals, 3 on gas, and all we do is build drones, build drones. So we've got to get this build down. Build drones, build drones. Let's queue up our second queen before the first one finishes. We're already queuing up that second queen. And we're still trying to just build drones. There's nothing to do here. Oh, we wanted to build Zerglings. 2 Zerglings. So we'll take 2 Zerglings and we'll sit them outside our opponent's base. Now our Overlord sees they don't have an expand yet. Let's go sit on the pillar. Hopefully see when they do expand. We're going to do an inject, move to the natural. Let's make Zergling speed because we have 100 minerals. Keep building drones. Let's build another Overlord. Put that over there. So in this early stage, we're not doing macro cycles. It's just build drones as the lava pops out, right? And the more you do this, the more effective it's going to be. But remember, we're not injecting straight away with that queen. Why? Because we're waiting for that one so we can go inject, inject, and we can batch it up. Build drones, build drones, build drones, build Overlord. We can click that Overlord up over there. What's this? Oh my! Now, if your opponent attacks you, that can be kind of scary. I'm just going to attack it with me queen. And a queen should beat a zealot. Now the important thing is once you recognize you can win a fight, that will beat that because he's heavily wounded. The important thing is to ignore it. We've already let that happen. I'm not going to micro. We're just going to think about the other things I need to do. Inject, inject, build drones, build overlords. I'm going to start clicking those overlords to the back. We're just chilling. Now, I'm going to have a Zergling there as a first warning of when they kind of move out a bit. And then another one a little bit further back. So I've got a double warning system. If I don't realize when they're attacking, I am really stupid. Notice I'm a bit under workers in my main. So what I'm going to do, select this hatchery, build 2, click there. And let's do the gases. So we're going to go gas, 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 flare. And oh, it's macro cycle time. Inject, inject, build drones, build some overlords. Okay. I forgot to take my third hatch again, guys. We're at 44 supply. Come on, we're past that. Let's get a third hatch. Now, the third hatch doesn't do much with this build, but we're just trying to get used to taking it. Oi, what are you doing? Let's click him while still leaving 1 scout at the front of the base. We're trying to get used to taking it, just so when we start playing longer games, we're already used to taking that base. So let's put workers on gas. Notice we go boop, boop, boop. So let's say we go, ooh, we're boxed too many. We can go and use that mechanic we were talking about before. And then macro cycle time, build a few more drones. Notice we need a bunch of these in the main. We're really undersaturated this game. Build a few more there. And then, guess what? That's going to be more than enough drones for 2 bases. So it's roach time, baby. Okay, so I've lost my map control. So if we were being safe, we'd be building units. Oh, it's time to build units anyway. So that's going to keep us safe. And this is the whole point of having a good solid build order. We're also going to try to check what our opponent's doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an overseer, and we're going to try to send that through their base. And if you can do that, and kind of remember, lair finishes, make roach speed, queue overseer scout through, that's going to be really nice. Inject, inject, build roaches, and ooh, I didn't save any lava. Oh no! Air units! Okay, so we're going to have to build spore crawlers. So we're going to build 3 spore crawlers there, 3 spore crawlers there, and we're going to build a hydra dome, okay? Now, one of the cool things about air units, if they're attacking you and you don't have anything to fight them, is you can take your ground units and distract them. So rather than, I'm going to give up that base. Okay, we're going to just select my army key, and we're going to attack move into the opponent's main base, and we're just going to sacrifice those. Let them do their thing. Now, I just built a bunch of spores, so notice my bases are a little undersaturated, so we're going to build some overlords, a few drones. Oh, I can't quite build more drones here. Oh, no. I could build more queens if I want, but queens are kind of hard to use. So instead, we're just going to make both hydra upgrades. We're just going to rely on spores for now to keep us alive, and these queens that we already have. And we're going to go hydras! Now, our hydras are becoming our new army. I am not going to control these at all. And my opponent is somehow here, which is very scary. What did I say, guys? Pull your drones back. Just run away. Now, we could try to move that spore down a little bit. And, oh, we probably should micro these guys. So let's just click those into the mana line. And the hydras, run! So we're just going to hide with our hydras until more of them are ready. And we want to wait for both those upgrades to be ready. So we're just hiding in our main base. Roaches are going to kill his economy. And hydras are going to be here. Now, this was a very fast reaction to a situation which I didn't scout as early as I should have if I paid attention to that overseer. Ah, run behind the spores. Let the spores help us. Now notice, once your hatchery is dead, these larvae aren't on a control group. So you actually have to manually select them to fight them. Now he's trying to kill the lair from over there, so we're going to have to use the spores to try and help us. We're just going to A-move, and I think we just barely have enough. Oh, cool, we killed all of his stuff. Just make sure those roaches are fighting stuff. And we barely win the game. Oh my god, that was stressful. So, as you get better at the game, you will scout these things and react earlier. This is the worst thing you can focus on as a new player, is what if he's doing this? What if he's doing that? I need to scout, I need to know. What if he's doing this? What if he's doing that? No, 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 no. No, no, no. When you see things react, do not ever react to something that happened in a previous game. This is the biggest problem that people make is, well, I died to Void Rays one game, so the next game, 2 minutes in, I'm building spore crawlers in all my bases to be safe. No. That's so bad. Don't ever do that, because then you're countering things that aren't there. You're boxing with shadows. You're playing with ghosts that aren't really there. How could we have been a little bit more solid this game? How can we prepare? Just do your build better. That is the #1 rule. And once you focus on that, then you can focus on other things. So let's talk a little bit about benchmarks. Let's talk about how can I, if I'm dying to Void Rays, not tunnel vision on that. Not think about hydras and how I need them earlier and all this. How can I refocus? Benchmarks. What you should be looking at when, and you should always press rewind at the end of the game like I just did, is, well, how quick did I hit my 2-base saturation? Is a really simple benchmark. So let's look at it in this game, and I can benchmark it and say, not quite there. I've only got 39 drones. I should have about 44 drones on 2 bases. So it took me a bit longer than I probably should have. And there we go. We're at 45 drones at 4 minutes 50. Cool. I did good. 4 minutes 50. 4 gases mining. Do I have roach speed started? No, I'm about to start it. So my lair's done. I've got 4 gases. I've got 2 base. My 3rd hatch is on the way. You want to kind of tick all those off. Go to the point where your 2 bases are saturated. Check the timer you hit it. Unless there was some sort of huge harassment from your opponent. Even if there was, you can really see how well you're doing from that. And most of these things, whether it be Void Rays or something else, are hitting so late, even in Gold League, even in Platinum League, that if you just get a little bit better at doing your opening, building your drones, hitting those macro cycles that we've been learning, you will be able to defeat most of these things with a reaction once you see what's happening. So don't start trying to rush into defending things, because what it'll do is it'll make you weaker versus everything else. You need to build your economy up as quickly as possible, okay? So, you should mention the spore timings. Proxy, Stargate, and DT are both really prevalent in low ratings, and they would have just been a build order win. And that's totally fine. Would they have been a build order win? Well, the thing is, I've played low leagues a lot and casted them and coached them. And most low-level proxy builds hit pretty darn late. So when should you build spore crawlers? Well, the thing is, we're not building them by default because we're only scouting, we're only reacting when we see things. So if we get fed up enough of dying to enough one-base builds, or if we're comfortable enough to the point where we can add extra things, and the whole point is it's okay to lose games while you're learning, the worst thing you can do is half-ass trying to do 20 different things at once. So if you're like, but then I'll lose some games. Good. Remember the mindset from the start. You are meant to be losing games while learning this. This is practice. Ladder is practice. You are meant to lose games. So do not build blind spores to be safe against a one-base proxy all-in. How can we adjust it though? What will be the first thing that gets us to scouting? Okay. If we can get that Overlord to scout through, that could be helpful. If we get an Overseer through, that would also be very good. Do we want to build spores? And that's a question. You know, this is a tough one, because if someone comes in with a single oracle, a queen actually can kind of do okay at holding off that oracle for a while. Oh, do we want to build a spore crawl? And this is a question for me. Do I want to add this in as a standard part of the build? Well, let's type out to me welcome to StarCraft build order. Does that include spores in it? I doubt it, because I'm not a big fan of doing things unless you have a reason. Oh, I do. I've got a great rule. Oh, check this out, fam. Oh, look at this. We've got a rule. Oh, there is a rule that we forgot about. We haven't talked about that yet. To be fair, we shouldn't have talked about it because we're getting used to the most basic things. At 3 minutes 30, if your opponent hasn't expanded yet, we can have a reaction that will keep us safe. Ah, okay. So we can make some units and spore, and then we can try and scout to see what's happening. So if our opponent doesn't expand in the next couple of games, let's try and learn this kind of alternate branch of the build where we don't quite fill up both bases. We build a safety spore, and we start building roaches. Okay, let's take a look. So let's try and work that in to be a little bit safer. Now that, for most people, like I said, I'm speed running this. For most of you, you'll need a lot more games practicing it without worrying about any reactions and just saying, let's just get 2 bases filled with drones faster. Let's just do that, work on my macro. And if I die to something, I die to something. But was I on the way to my benchmark? Was my benchmark good? Did I do? So you're really focusing on what you can improve, because StarCraft is a very unkind environment. There's 1,000 things that can come your way. You can't be ready for all of them. As we get better, we will develop more awareness of, in this situation, I can add this safety measure or that safety measure. But that's far too advanced for when we are simply trying to learn a general structure that can make us a better player. So let's look at that Overlord, look at our Zerg. If they don't expand, I'll show you guys a response which you can all learn as you get better at the game. But you should not worry about at the very start. So we'll just send our Overlord straight away to that pillar this time around, so we don't have to bother fiddling with that. Overlord, 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 Overlord. Let me build my Overlord. And that guy's going to go sit out front the natural, or over the natural, then out front if we want to check we don't get cannon rushed. Build a drone. 3rd base, 4th base, 5th base, and rally point. That was a great question from Jadamine, who was the one who brought that up. Please keep bringing questions like that, guys. These are the questions that need to be asked. They need to be asked, because this is what people wonder. Why are we playing versus a Masters player? So of course, guys, the borders are broken right now. I think it actually showed our opponent's MMR as 2,000. I didn't realize it normally shows MMR on the loading screen, but it must be because they're a Masters player that both of our MMRs showed up there. 17 pool, 17 hatch, 17 gas. Now, of course, the MMR still matches you up with the right opponents, guys. Just those league borders are wrong. So notice here, we're rallying that guy onto the minerals. You got 16 on minerals, which means the next ones go on the gas. Build drone, click on the gas. Build drone, click on the gas. We then get the queen straight away, and the overlord after the queen. And you're going to start getting used to the rhythm. The more consistent you are with your opening, try to always do things in the same order. Don't deviate it. The better you get at hitting a set order, the more it gets burnt into your brain. The more you change it randomly each time you're playing, the more you're going to change things and forget about things accidentally all the time. Why do we do pool first rather than hatch first? Hatch first is more standard. Yeah, actually, to be fair, for every other race, I would have sent a worker scout across by now. And if you feel safer with it, if you guys are running into lots of proxies and cheeses and struggling, you know what? You can absolutely send a worker scout as well. But the pool first is just for safety. It just makes us early game easier for us to not die to crazy things. It just makes the whole early game a little bit more consistent. And if there's different cheeses that come out, cannon rush, whatever, we just have access to Zerglings and our queen earlier. Just makes the early game a little bit safer without having to react to things, which is of course what we're trying to avoid, right? We don't really want to react to things too much. So our opponent's expanded, so we don't get to do that one base reaction. Inject, inject, build drones. And we're almost at 36 supply, so let's build that roach warren. And remember, I just clicked a drone. You guys aren't going to have good mouse accuracy when you start at StarCraft, so don't really do that. Try to do more box the mineral line and build whatever structures you need. It's a little bit of a better way of doing it. Just building some overlords and clicking them out right now to have a nice ring of vision. And we're just waiting for our next injects to be ready. Inject, inject. Don't spend the lava. It's inject, inject, then spend the lava, and then build the overlords. Now we're almost at that 44 supply, so I'll go get that third base. Oh, I forgot to build Zerglings. Let's put that out there. So we're going to build 2 Zerglings, get them out there. We could have done that earlier. We were relying on the overlord. So if you start getting to the point where you keep getting surprised by attacks, you can build this habit that I'm kind of doing this game. I'm looking at the overlord. What's over there? But that's a very low priority. You only want to do that in between macro cycles. Inject, inject, build drones, build an overlord, and it's time to take gases, isn't it? Build a gas, build 2 gases. Remember, box the drones, doesn't matter how many you select, build, build. Lair starts. Now you're going to notice I'm a bit undersaturated in my main, so I'm just going to take those guys, put them there, and keep building drones here. And let's put guys on gas early, even before they're finished. Let's just get that job done early. Slightly inefficient, totally fine. And I can take these drones here on the eggs and one off there, put those on gas and inject, inject. Roach time, friends. Oh, I forgot to build my third hatch. I sent the drone there and I forgot to build it. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Add it to the control group. All my bases are saturated, so that's my newest base. What do? We select the hatchery hotkey, we rally them all there, and then we rally them all to the front. Let's build some more overlords. Those Zerglings. Let's take a Zergling and go for a scout, shall we? Let's see what we run into here. Ooh, that's a siege tank and a marine. No worries. Inject, inject, build roaches, build overlords. Now the lair's done, so let's make an overseer. And we're going to queue that to go into the main and then out the back of their base so we can see exactly what we're up against. And roach speed. Remember, that's part of our build now. When the lair's done, we do those 2 things. Now, what else are we doing? Well, if you guys want to start learning creep spread, you can add a 3rd queen and get a creep tumor going. These are all just extra things, so we'll do that. And if you want, you can control group your creep queens. So when you start making queens just for creep spread and defense, you give them a control group. Notice I'm giving them number 4, okay? So we got army key, secondary army key, which in this case is my overseer scout. So I can double tap 3. I haven't really talked about this mechanic yet, guys. Double tap 2 to go to my army, double tap 3 to go to my overseers, double tap 1 to go to my bases, which I don't really use that very much. And what do we see here, guys? We see things. Now, those are engineering bays, those are upgrade structures, those are a sign of greed. Everything else, these build marines, those build tanks, those build medevacs. Nothing to react to here, totally standard. Now, the important thing is those are a sign of a longer game, as are command centers. But we didn't see a 3rd command center. As you get better, you'll read all this information. For now, doesn't matter. We shouldn't even be thinking about it. I'm just talking about it to introduce the concept for later on. Now, one thing we noticed is there were tanks on the high ground, which means our roaches won't really be able to get at them. So let's make an overseer to go with our roaches to spot the high ground. Let's do an inject, an inject. Let's build roaches, and let's go for that big attack, guys. So we always attack about, right, like I said, after I've been building roaches for a few minutes straight, we've got a lot of roaches and roach speed finished. And we're going to focus everything on trying to win with that army. Now, if we want to be super pro, we can scout ahead with our overseer, or even drop changelings and use those. But we're just going to use the overseer this time to see what we're going into. And here's a habit. Notice I didn't click my roaches. A lot of people make the mistake of doing this. They click their roaches into their base from across the map, and look, they're all disorganized. No, no, no. Always group up before you go in. All right, now let's go for it. And remember, click behind the army. We want to get on top of them. And we're going to go attack move. Click behind their army to get on top, and attack move. All our units are on top and fighting, so that's really good. Oh my god, he was trying to do a drop, I think. So these units are all stuck, so let's take them, and let's click up the ramp, and then let's kill the depot. And then let's click inside, and we want to click past the units, and then attack move. Click past the units, attack move. Okay, let's just A move here. Now we're on the production, which is usually a game-winning position for Terran. So our units don't need any more micro. Remember, when we don't need any more micro, what do? Inject, inject. Wait a second, look at our money. We spent so long without injecting. Oh, I'm so bad. That's fine. We used our army correctly, which is important. But if we do come home, we have a lot of money. Say that attack doesn't win the game. What do we need to do? If you haven't injected for a while, you can use the shift mechanic. So if you haven't injected in a long time, what you do, rather than the normal macro cycle, you go inject and you hold down shift and you keep clicking it in there. And you'll notice she cues the injects. The way that works is when one finishes, the next one will start. That finishes, the next one will start. So we do that on all of our bases. We can take our creep queen and tell that one as well. Inject, 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 inject. Now this takes a few seconds, but it's worth it because it means we don't really need to worry about injecting for a while. And then we can build lots of roaches, lots of overlords, and we can manage our economy. And we only do this when our attack's done, and we're kind of really set it up for success. We're going to transfer workers to our third base. Also, Hydroden, double evolution chamber is the next step of our build to get upgrades for our roaches and add hydras. We can take the gases on that base as well. And remember the mechanic, build 3 drones, click, select hatcheries, build 3 drones, click. And this base still needs more workers, so let's build a bunch more workers, and they'll automatically rally the new ones. Now, we can still do macro cycles just because it's a good habit to have. Why not? And just keep building roaches. And then we can get upgrades, go for hydras. That would be the next step. GG. What abilities do you have set as rapid fire? It's not really important. Ooh, we got silver too. Oh, you also would build a bunch of hatcheries there. Sorry, to spend money. If you've got that much money floating, building a bunch of hatcheries. I got distracted by reading chat. Man, I'm so bad at this B2GM business, guys. What can I say? We should have built like 3 or 4 hatcheries, a few expansions, a few macro hatcheries as well. Whenever you're floating money as a Zerg, if you've just spent all your lava and you've still got like thousands of minerals in the bank, just drop a bunch of hatcheries. It's totally fine. Even top level pros do it sometimes. Jadamine actually just mentioned that. I would say, yeah, if your minerals are over 1,000 after you use your lava, 2 hatcheries even. 2 hatcheries. If it's 2,000, 3 or 4 hatcheries. If you play against a Zerg player and he rushes you with Zerglings while using roaches, how can you defend? Well, you're gonna basically just put your queens on your ramp together, and you're gonna build your own Zerglings if your Roach Horn's not ready. Death Champion. We haven't played against a guy, but we just talked about what's our built-in little defense mechanism, guys. So if we don't see an expand at 3 minutes 30, we're gonna start making defensive things. We're gonna make a spore in case it's invisible units. Don't really need that against a Zerg player, but against Protoss and Terran, it could be Dark Templar or Banshee. So we'll build a spore in each base and we'll make fighting units if our opponent doesn't expand. When you're first learning, that's not really important for you as a player to think about and understand. But as you start to develop and play more games, you want to start adapting to things. It's like, ooh, this guy hasn't expanded. Okay, let's start building defense. And you'd be surprised how well you can hold off most early rushes by just fighting them with your drones and your queens. And if you get both queens on the ramp on hold position, it shuts down a lot of Zerglings. I got rushed with Zerglings after my second base was finishing, and I couldn't do anything because I didn't have any units as Death Champion. Yeah, well, so Ben, go check the timing of when that actually hit you, and it's totally fine. Like I said, you're going to lose some games, doesn't matter. But if you just grab all your drones, your queen together, and attack it, and your overlord also should have seen the Zerglings coming. So if you just notice those Zerglings coming on the minimap, you can build some Zerglings of your own as well. If you want, you could build a spine crawler in your base. All of those things will really help you out. Overlord, third base, fourth base, fifth base, and drone. So I know it's a bit of a blitz at the start. For those who weren't here for the start of the show, we talked about how I set up my camera locations. I'm not going to painstakingly talk you guys through it every time. It is what it is. Notice something on the minimap. You're asking a lot there. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm asking you to, if you notice, do that. I don't expect people to notice it. But that's just what it is, right? That's why if you really want to, you could send one of your first drones across the map to scout. You could absolutely do that if you really feel you need it to defend against the cheese and stuff. But usually what I see right through to Gold League is I'm like, oh, if you just grabbed your workers and attack moved, you actually would have killed the attack. Like most of the time, not always, but 95% of the time, it's like, oh, if you just grab your workers together and like fought in an open area, not in a little choke point, you'd be fine. Because most people's builds just really aren't very efficient. And I know it sucks to kind of say, hey, your opponents suck, just beat them by doing this, but it really is the answer more often than not. It's amazing. Even at high level, I've seen Haas, a pro gamer, defend people's 12 pool off Nexus first no scout with just workers and shut it the fuck down. I mean, it's just one of these things where you'd be amazed how good workers are actually at fighting in a lot of rush situations. I also have a lot of good videos in the Welcome to StarCraft series where I go over all of these sort of concepts of like, well, I keep dying to cheese. How do I defend that? Common mistakes people make when they're under attack or when they're being rushed. And a lot of those concepts are broken down individually in those videos. So make sure you guys check that series out. It's something I should probably be plugging a bit more throughout this Bronze to GM because those resources are very complementary to this. So guys, he's expanding. Pretty damn early too. That's a very quick expand. So we don't need to worry about our one base response that we were talking about. Oi! Oh wait, this is my base, dude. So you know what? I had 2 Zerglings which I was sending across. We're gonna kill him and make sure he didn't build a pylon in here, and then we'll go across and we'll split them, one on one path, one on the other path. Build some drones, and okay, we've got some overlords out front. Inject. I just actually spent all my lava because it was all sitting out a bit ahead of time. Fair enough. Roach Warren on 36. Like I said, I tend to just build this after my first inject because I've got nothing to do. Remember, all these extra tasks, we want to do them when? In between injecting cycles. And then in the early game, tap your hatchery, build lava. Build drones. Tap your hatcheries, build an overlord. And the Zergling there sees a probe, which is interesting. So, time for another macro cycle. Inject. Drones, and a couple of overlords. So we'll build one overlord, click it down the bottom. And I think we've got a pretty good ring of vision. So all the rest of my overlords can just go to the back of my base for now. It's time, guys. Let's get gases. I'm going to get them a little bit earlier this game, just because I've got nothing to do. So we're going to take the gases. We'll take a lair here. Overlord's going to have a little perv. See what's up. Inject. And remember, build drones. So we just built those drones in 3 separate cycles. Built 3 drones, clicked them on a gas, built 3 drones. And then we can build 2 more drones just to come down here. And that's going to have us saturated, guys. So we have rushed our macro like crazy this game. Now, we just saw a probe running around there. Doesn't matter. Time to start building roaches, guys. Now, because the opponent's expanded, this is just such a solid game plan, right, in general. But what if we were worried about air units? I would say, let's say 4 minutes 30. If you want to be paranoid and you want safety spore timing, in a general scenario, 4 minutes 30. That's a lot of zealots, guys. We really don't need those spore crawlers. Now, when you see an attack, what's the #1 rule? Though it looks like he might be going for an expansion. Let's send our Zergling to check. Oh yeah. It's build overlords and keep macroing. Inject, inject, build roaches, and pull behind. He's already over here. Pull behind, pull behind. Don't fight, because your drones, if you're not completely confident you can kill an army, you want to fight with your workers. That's a lot of units. That's fucking scary, guys. Ah! 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 Hide behind your hatchery. The hatchery is a tanky unit. It can do a lot. Keep building roaches. Ah! Okay, I don't want to lose my hatchery, though. I think I have to fight, guys. Did I start roach speed? I didn't start roach speed. Ah! Ah! But notice the drones are there. Okay, he's running away. Grab the drones. Put them back on gas. Do we want to chase? No. It's tempting. It's tempting, isn't it? To just chase when you see your opponent running away. But for those who haven't studied histories, go read up about the Mongols, okay? Just go read up about the Mongols. And let's just say those cocky opponents of them had a little bit of a habit of going, oh, they're running away, let's chase them. If you aren't already ready for your attack, what do we need for our attack? Roach speed. Our units aren't very good. There's just no... Why would we do it? That's not normally when I attack, so why would we do it? Now, I forgot my third hatch again. Like I said, if you guys want to make the build simpler, you just don't build the third hatch. Ever for yourself. We're doing it with the third hatch. I could use a couple more drones. I'll let my OCD kick in and build 2 more drones. But all we're doing is building roaches, guys. Now, he's on 3 base, we're on 2. Let's start to apply some fundamentals here. Let's start to apply some fundamental game knowledge. If my opponent's making 3 bases of economy, and I'm only on 2, I am behind. But what am I behind in? Economy. But remember what I said earlier. How do you know when to attack? Well, if you spent a few minutes investing just in army, and those units have their most important upgrades, well, it's damned well time to attack. In fact, I could have moved across the map even earlier. So we're going to move over here to what we call a staging zone. Not in, let them group up, and before we fight, do an extra macro cycle. Okay, guys? Inject, inject, build roaches. Let's rally our hatcheries over there. And now let's go for our attack as our... What is this? Oh my god! It's a base trade! So, oh, he's recalling. Do we want to fight? I don't know if we want to get on top of that. Oh, yes we do. That was only some of his units. Ah! 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 Okay, so we killed the probes. Let's go do more damage. Meanwhile, at home... Ah! Run to the main! So what are we doing? We're selecting our hatcheries. We're rallying behind the main. Remember what I said? Always give up ground. Now, in this base trade, we're going to split roaches into each mineral line. That's a really good way to play it, okay? And all we're doing is building roaches. Now, this is deep experience stuff. We should not be in this position. Oh, pig, I can't handle it that fast. Blah, blah. I messed up on my map control, and that is the reason why I am in this situation. I messed up my map control bad, okay? Now, I don't have anything to shoot up, so let's kill the Stargate. But notice the roaches in each mineral line have killed his whole economy. And we're trying to build spines and roaches back here. And just setting your rally point back and keep building roaches. I've got an extra spore on the way. Okay, we're going to have to take these roaches, which aren't on a control group. Notice I wasn't control grouping them. That's super advanced. You're not going to remember to do that in a high intensity situation until you've played a lot of games in base trades where you go, wait, because these guys are on a control group and I want to use them separately. I don't put these on a control group? Absolutely. That's very hard to remember. Now, there's Void Rays out, which is obviously going to be a pain. Let's try and chase down these guys, but actually there's Void Rays, aren't there? So let's go hide on the map. It's very important here to avoid the Void Rays while we try and get up Hydras. And off one base, we're going to try and... Isn't this a very Florencio situation to be in? We're going to try and just kill all of my opponent's probes. But he's killing us, so I need to run home because I don't have anything to defend the zealots. So we're going to queue both Hydra upgrades, and we're going to try and make those. And we're going to make an Overseer, which we're going to queue along the edge and to scout this base. Now, if he's mining that base, I might lose, right? So even with these roaches to deal with the zealots, which they're very good at, I don't really have anything to deal with the Void Rays other than these spores and a couple of Hydras coming out. That Hydra, by the way, very exposed. So let's move a Spore Crawler up here to try and deal with that a little bit more. And we're going to just select all army here and try to fight this out a little bit. Oh my god. Let's build more spores, because I think the important thing here is just not dying. And it looks like the opponent didn't have any workers left, so they died. You're never going to handle a base trade that good. Pig, smurfing, no, you're playing too fast. I don't give a shit, guys. I don't give a shit. This is where you learn. This is where you learn. I will never, ever look at that and say, that's how you handle a base trade, though. What will I say is, why was my map vision so utterly trash? And do you know why, guys? It's because I never replaced those spotting Zerglings that I had earlier in the map. These Zerglings were great. They saw him move out. They gave me the warning of what was coming, right? But after he ran away with this big Zealot Immortal attack, I didn't replace those spotting units. So remember, you gotta put those spotting units. So I should have built a few more Zerglings for sure. Put a few spotters out here and seen when this next attack moved out. And if I saw when this next attack came, I could have just gone and greeted it with my roaches, right? Rather than counterattack. I could have just gone and fought his army and then attacked past the Void Rays. You could argue, because he's got a Void Ray, it wouldn't be a great idea. It's only one Void Ray. It's going to take forever. My roaches could smash the army, and then I could just run past. The Void Ray is going to be like, oh, get back here. It's just, it's a simpler situation. 37 roaches is going to beat the shit out of Mass Slow Zealot, right? It's going to beat the shit out of it, okay? Overall, though, we got a nice, clean, simple game once again. And we've decided 4-minute 30 spores if you really want that safe timing. But I would advise most people to not do it until you actually need it. Until you see flying units or DTs or something like that. I would really advise you embrace risk as a natural part of StarCraft. And try to only build things once you really need them. But I think 430 as a spore is kind of... It's okay enough that it should be alright. Is moving spores around a common thing? I never really uproot my spore crawlers. They root really fast. It's fine if you don't. It's just a little advanced thing that I'm doing because I'm used to it, I guess. Is pulling back with the other races viable? I'd end up panic and put cannons on the front of the base to try not to lose buildings. Oh, that's what a lot of people do, Litany. So a lot of people try to build spine crawlers or cannons or bunkers on top of their opponent's army. When I'm doing like pig roasts or any of these shows, this is the #1 thing I rant about. I'm like, what do you think you're doing? There's an army in your base, you're going to build static defense on it? It's so stupid. It's not going to get up in time. That shit takes forever to build. You might mean you've already built it ahead of time. If that's the case, that's totally okay. To fight with your static defense, right? But then you still want to pull your workers to fight with it. It all depends on the calculation, right? If you've got literally no army, but a shitload of army that's about to pop out of eggs or gateways or barracks, always pull back. If you're a Terran, pull back to the ramp where you can defend with the tank on the high ground, right? The basic thing, right, is think about it this way, guys. If you have you and 3 of your cousins are getting in a street fight against another douchebag and 3 of his cousins, and you're going to fight you 1 versus 4, and then once they pound, how much damage do you think you're going to do to those 4 guys before you get knocked unconscious? Not a lot. You're going to get this shit beaten out of you, and then your cousin goes in and he goes 1v4, and then your other cousin, he goes 1v4, and you guys will be lucky to land any punches and even bruise those 4 cousins, right? Those 4, because they're fighting together and you guys are fighting individually. It's just basic. But if you're fighting separated, not together, you're going to get ravaged. #1. #2, and I go over this in detail in my my Welcome to StarCraft. So let's go take a little looky at that. Welcome to StarCraft rushes, or what is it, biggest mistakes, common mistakes versus rushes. We can kind of take a look at that video while we talk about this. The biggest thing people don't realize as well is workers are amazing for fighting, but only as tanks. They're not really good for much else. So the thing is, if you lose all your damage units and then you pull your workers, well, your workers aren't worth anything. Your workers are there for tanking. They do almost no damage, except in very small scale fights. So if you lose all your damage dealing units, pulling your workers is basically worthless. But if you pull back your high damage units, get your workers in front, your workers are actually buying time for your high damage units to do damage. So in this video, I go over this in detail. Common mistakes versus rushes. Welcome to StarCraft. Give it a Google. And I kind of show the exact same scenario where this Protoss player gets caught out front their base and then pulls their workers. And this is the old Cyclone, the Pew Pew Cyclone, which is amazing. It just gets annihilated. And then I show the difference of if they see the enemy army coming and they build some more units and they grab their army and they pull it way back and they're trying to build some more units and they're like, oh shit, I'm supply blocked, build some more pylons, pull back behind the Nexus. And it's the exact same scenario, but it's just the difference between going, oh, my opponent's coming to attack me, I'm going to walk over there and just fight them on their terms. Or, look at this. I'm going to lose literally I'm going to lose one immortal and nothing else. Like 2 probes maybe died there. Holy shit. Now that was a pretty clean example of a fight. Hello, young pig who still has hair. Oh, so I miss you. But, It's just that thing where it's like, yeah, almost always pulling back behind your bases whenever you're not ready to fight. Fuck yes. I mean, if you've got a wall as a Terran, you might want to fight with the wall and then pull your boys to repair said wall or something like that, right? But it's really powerful if you guys can actually use that. It's game changing. It's game changing. I lost my first bunch of games when I was going over the very basics, guys. For those who are just tuning in, was Pig losing games in Silver? Absolutely I was, guys. Absolutely. My first bunch of games where I was explaining the fundamentals, we were losing a lot. I'm attending a Barcraft today. We'll be watching Monk's list of the best games for the year of the past 11 years. Mind giving a shout out to the Minnesota Barcraft? Hey! Shout out to the Minnesota Barcraft. Sorry, Bulmiolja. Dude, that's awesome. Oh, that sounds great. If you're still around, please do link that up in chat. That sounds amazing. Hope you guys are having a great time over there getting together. I'm in lockdown at the moment, so I'm very jealous. I'm super jealous. That sounds amazing, dude. What a great... I was about to say, I was like, what event is there right now to do a Barcraft for? You guys like, yeah, we're just going to watch some of the best games. Dude, that's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. I think we're all pretty jealous of that. Oh, hello. So... he looks a bit cheeky, doesn't he? Oh, no! So, let's bring another drone down, because we can assume he's going to block us. And, that's fine. Let's just take our gas, build our overlord, and just keep droning. Now, this is one of the big things you want to do. We could go take our third base if we want. Now, because we see a second probe, that tells us he's probably cannon rushing us, okay? So, when you get cannon rushed, what do? You try and get a lot of workers pulled, okay? Always leave one attacking the probe. Try and get 3 or 4 on each cannon. And then build Zerglings, which you have access to very early. And just make sure there's no way they can do it. And just leave a drone chasing each probe. Now, because this is defended, because we've almost got Zerglings out and there's no cannons, and that drone just died as well, or that probe, sorry. We can now go for this. So, let's go back to our build. We've forgotten our queen, we forgot to put on gas, keep building drones, keep building overlords. Oh, that's regenerating shields. Let's go fix that. Now, overlord, you're going to see that our opponent is now expanding. So let's clear this up, and we've queued the Zerglings to attack move the natural. As soon as this is done, let's get a hatchery here. I don't think we need that drone following anymore, so let's bring that back to our main. Main saturated now, 16 plus 3. So, let's queue up another queen. Let's rally to the natural, build more drone, build more overlord. Overlord goes there, overlord goes there. We do an inject, we move to the natural. Oh, cannon's ready. Oh, we don't want to run in there then, do we? Uh-oh. So, We're going to set up a Zergling there at both of the different expansions, and 2 on the attack paths. And what do? We make ling speed and we do our build. Oh, what are you doing there, buddy? Let's kill him. So everything's a little bit different with your timings. So you've got to put extra focus in these scenarios on just building drones, building overlords. Oh, this piece of shit just lured me! He lured my Zerglings to their death! What a bastard. Now, a cool little tip. If your opponent goes forge first, they're not going to have anything that shoots up for a while other than that forge. So we can scout with our overlord and see everything that's going on. Now you're going to notice here's a problem. My injects aren't synced up, guys. Oh, that's messy, isn't it? So we're going to have to do separate double macro cycles if we want to be efficient. Now for you, you can always just make the decision. Actually, they've both got 25 energy, so it doesn't matter. Inject, build drones. Because the hatchery was so late, it works out. Never mind. I was going to say, you can decide if you feel like you're not a super fast player, just wait for them to sync up so you can do it all at once. Otherwise, you could just, just get it done. Now let's get those gases started, the lair, keep building drones. One of the things you look for when scouting a Protoss is where their pylons are, because that's the only place they can really put down tech. So we're going to go there, and then we're going to go back down here to try and see what the tech is. So this is a cool advanced thing. Do I need to do this? No. So that's advanced. I've jumped past the most basic assumption. What's the most basic thing that we should know if we've defended a cannon rush? Some of you might know this. His gateway and then Cybercore is super delayed. So even if he gets a quick Nexus, which we saw him go for that Nexus right after we defended, so he might be okay on economy, but his tech, Stargate, bloody Twilight Council, robotics, any sort of attack other than just basic gateway units coming out, and even those, is going to be very delayed. Now, what does that mean? I'm a new pig. How does that help me? All it means is you should feel more safe for longer than normal. That's all. We're at 44 supplies, so let's get that third hatch. Build a few more drones here. Roach speed. And, oh, it's a Phoenix out of a Stargate, and then a Robo, and then another Robo. So we're going up against Phoenix Immortal. Are we going to change anything? No, we're not playing unit counters. What do you think? We're a tryhard or some shit? We've got Roach speed on the way. We've got 2 bases of workers. We're going to rally everything to the 3rd base. Let's try and remember to squeeze that 3rd queen. And we're getting high in Silver League, guys. We're almost at Gold League. So we're going to build a queen. She'll become the new injecting queen. And this one becomes that number 4 creep/defense queen. Now, also, we do want... Oh, okay. We'll build a Hydra Den because we know there's flying units. But we're not even going to use them, okay? Not straight away. Also, you might be like, don't you need spores? No. Phoenix don't do anything, guys. They're not oracles or anything like that. Phoenix don't do anything until there's a whole lot of them. So we can just afford to ignore them completely, okay? So we're going to add an Overseer to our roaches just in case there's DTs. I'm going to just check. I'm like, did you take this expansion? Did you do a sneaky one? No. Because he hasn't expanded yet, we're going to go and just queue a Zergling to all the bases just to double check that my opponent hasn't expanded. Well, that's the sickest thing I've ever seen. This guy's a Chad gamer! Anubis! Oh my god, Anubis, you are my favorite. Anubis is probably in chat, right? 100%. This is too cool. So we're gonna try to break this. Now the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna kill the shield battery first, and then we're gonna focus fire the cannons, okay? So we kill this cannon. We're still building roaches here. You're like, man, losing a few roaches here. As long as we don't lose the base, it doesn't matter. This is a really kind of silly move for my opponent. Now, what about creep spread? This is kind of a bonus mechanic until you're in plat, in my opinion. I really feel like, if you want to get a bit of creep between your bases, that's all right, but just don't obsess over it, okay, guys? It's really not important. We're going to queue the Hydra upgrades because we know my opponent has a Stargate, but guess what, guys? Roach speed is done. We've got a lot of roaches because we've been doing nothing but build roaches for a few minutes. That's how we know when it's time to attack. Some of you might find a supply count gives you more confidence. Okay, 110 supply. Let's do it. Now remember, we're moving to the staging point. We're then macroing, doing an inject cycle, building more roaches, more overlords, and then we're focusing everything on the front. We're going, let's kill the opponent. So we're making sure our roaches are all together. And we're going to, what do we do, guys? We move on top. And we attack him. Now this time around, our opponent has battery overcharge. This fight is kind of going rough for us. But that's okay. All my units are fighting. Move him in. Attack move. Inject. Inject. Yeah. Build some more roaches. Add them to the control group. Oh my god, we just got hammered. Okay, okay. Everything that's left, run home, run home, run home. It's fine, guys. It's fine. We killed a lot of immortals, so it's not the end of the world. So we're going to go back. Now, because that Phoenix count is growing as well, I think we're going to add the Hydras to this. Now, a good rule after an attack is to drone up if you want to be a bit of a tryhard. Now, personally, we are not a tryhard. We are someone who likes to just win the game in the easiest, the most low-skill way possible. We go to the school of tasteless, okay? So what are we going to do? At about 8 minutes 30 to 9 minutes, your main base, half of these mineral patches are going to mine out. So you always want to drop your main base worker count to about 8. So we're even going to pull these away early. We're going to pull about 6 or 7 workers. We're going to send those to the 3rd just to keep our mining stable. We're going to keep injecting. And we're going to just add Hydras to this army to deal with the good event against both Immortals and Phoenix, funnily enough. So when that Hydra upgrade's done, we want to fight, basically, as long as we've got enough Hydras. Well, we don't really have many yet, do we? It's easy to just look at your upgrade and go, let's fight. It's like, well, I have like almost no Hydras, right? We saw the opponent took a base. Let's put some spotters out on the map. So we're going to put a roach up here on that path. We're going to make an overseer in case our opponent makes invisible units. So we have a Zergling there and a roach there in case they attack us. If we wanted to be super pro, we'd make an overseer and queue it through their base as well. Inject, 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 build Hydras. Let's look at our army now. Does that feel like a... Okay. Yeah, we've got both Hydra upgrades done. All right, let's go do an attack. So we're going to just go through the middle, do a big wide open fight here on that 3rd base, because that's out in the open. We don't want to fight into the cannons and batteries. They really helped our opponent out of that last game. So to the staging point, before we get there, extra overlords, extra Hydras added to the rally point. If you want to build more drones or Evo chambers or something, we can do that. That's pretty advanced. We don't really need to worry about it. But it's the idea of get to the staging point, group up, do some extra macro, and then let's go. And what micro do we do with the Hydras? The exact same. So we want to move on top, move past their army. Attack. Oh, some of the guys aren't attacking.
Thanks for the Bezos box.
So you always want to look at the back of your army. There's only like one roach not attacking. And then attack. And then, okay, cool, they're killing stuff. Move them into the mineral lane, attack. Okay, inject, inject, inject. Build some overlords. We're practicing not looking at the fight now. That is a mechanic Vibe talks about a lot. Let's make some upgrades. I'll make some +1. I want to look at it. I really want to, but you need to train this muscle. Okay, now look back at the fight. Okay, okay, oh, okay. Oh, group up, group up, group up. Okay, boys. All right, what do? We move past and then we attack. Move in and then attack. Remember, whenever we're fighting, we're watching. If those units on the back are derping around, it means you need to give another move command in. Right click, A left click. Right click, A left click. Okay. And we see the power of never going past. I was at 45 drones earlier. I'm at 41 now because I've built a few buildings and I haven't droned.
Thanks for the Bezos
And remember what I said about your main base half drones out nice and early. Well, look at this. The natural 11:30 to 12 minutes, the same thing. So you want to build a habit of at this point, grab about half the workers there, send them to your 3rd. Even though some of the patches hadn't quite mined out, they're about to. And this is a habit which happens every game. So this is something that's more advanced. A lot of people will just notice, oh, I have too many workers, the number's red. But just keep in mind, if you do a solid opening every game, 8.5 to 9 minutes, the main base needs to be dropped down to about 8 workers. And 11.5 to 12 minutes in the natural. Now, people are saying, well, the power of macro. And the funny thing is, it is the power of macro. But this is 41 drone macro. I want that to sink in because I have coached too many Silver Leaguers in the last year or two who think you need 85 workers or you're not a macro player and you're just cheesing. And I'm like, no. I'll tell you guys, even for most diamond players, I think 66 workers is too many for most diamond players for their APM and the skill they're playing at because they're not going to be able to use that much money effectively. I think there's always a balance of having good macro early is really good, but people over drone like crazy. They over probe, they over SCV, and they use that as a crutch for how bad they are with their armies, because as long as I make enough Thors or enough things. The problem there is, notice I'm winning these games in 10, 11 minutes, sometimes 8 minutes. I'm getting a lot of repetitions of my basics as well. That's another advantage to attacking earlier, is I'm getting that opening practice more and more. So I'm getting more reps of the important early setup stage. And if you can focus yourself on that and benchmark it, that's going to be really good. So we can benchmark it. If we want to be really lazy, we can use the graphs. Check this out. Graphs. Workers active. When did I hit my 2 base workers? It looks like I hit it, I don't know, about the 5-minute mark. Okay, that seems to be the general mark. It's like 4:55 minutes is when we get up to like 45 workers. So that's something where, guys, if you don't see you hit this until 7 minutes or something, just fix the basics at the start and you're going to make a massive difference. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. But Pig Raynor plays with 100 drones. Exactly why you shouldn't do it. Exactly why you shouldn't do it. Pig, I just started learning gymnastics. I could do a quadruple backflip 7 meters in the air on concrete, right? Go for it. Enjoy. Enjoy. I hope you have free medical care in your country wherever you live. Enjoy. It's going to be a fun time. Yeah, it's...
My man!
Yeah. And the cool thing is, you know what, guys? The attacks have been pretty boring. So you know what? I want to make this more fun. If we don't have to do any adapting, if we get another person who's expanding early, do you know what we're going to do to make it more fun? We're going to do a 2-pronged roach attack in the next one. Chat shouting for Ravages? No, Ravages are too hardcore. Well, we can use Ravages as well, but we're going to do a 2-pronged attack. So what we're going to do is we are going to have one attack, and people are like, oh, I can't micro 2 at once. No. The trick is one army distracts them, and then the other guys, you click them in a mineral line, and then once they're there, you don't look at them again, and you just go back in with your main army and focus on that. And that's what we're going to try and do. We'll see if it works. Depending on the situation, we can see if we can do a bit of a, hey, look over here, and then run roaches in the back on a different control group. And this is going to introduce that alt
My
steam.
man!
Can we talk about that 3 forward strat that your previous opponent used? Well, that was just pro gaming. That's what that was. That was sick. My opponent liked upgrades. That was just a high-level play. So guys, please criticizing. If you do a Terran series, would you be teaching mech instead of bio due to needing less micro? I doubt it. Bio is the standard. So even though I think a lot of people should probably use that, I think more people still play bio than mech. So I would probably teach bio. Because I think there's a lot of ways you can make bio not as APM intensive. It's just like, for me, the most problems people have with bio is really bad build orders. They just don't have a build order past a certain point in the game. Like even in Masters level Terrans I talk to and coach, they just don't have a build past the first few minutes of the game. So they don't have a game plan. They don't really understand their timing attacks well enough. And when they do try to do big pushes or multitasking, they set themselves up for failure by expecting themselves. They basically put themselves in situations which even the best Terrans in the world wouldn't put themselves in. So they make microing really difficult for themselves. They're like, oh, no. I've got 120 Marines in a ball on creep. Oh, don't worry. I'll notice when the enemy runs Banelings at me and I'll split all 80 Marines perfectly. And I just look at that and I'm like, guys, you know even Clem wouldn't try this, right? Like, you know what you're doing is actual insanity. Like, because they're not actually understanding the systems that pro gamers use to play good StarCraft. So I think I could still teach people a lot of how to make bio a lot easier for themselves, because there is so many people out there who they use 1,000 Marines the same way they'd use 8 Marines in a medevac. They're like, yeah, I just stutter step these and pick them up when I get in trouble, right? And I'm like, dude, you're in a maxed out fight. That's a harassment tactic. That's not that's not how you manage a maxed out bio battle. People are like, oh, I just don't have Maru's micro. That's why I lose. I'm like, it's often not having Maru's micro and acting like you have his micro. You know, it's uncritically kind of trying to execute the same sort of stuff. So, anyways, let's talk about this build, guys, a little bit here. So let's get the 2 Zerglings that we've been talking about. Our Overlord's not going to make it to the pillar, so it's very important that we get that. And Build an extra overload. A lot of people stare at this, go, will it survive? Will it survive? Don't stare at it. Just assume it'll die. Click it to safety and build extra overlords. If it survives, think of it as a bonus. Always assume the worst. Inject, inject. Trying to build drones. Ugh, supply block, try to build drones. We're holding that drone key down. You'll see, there we go. Okay, so with the Zerglings, we're going to put one there, and we'll put a backup one, I guess, like back there. So if the front one dies, we have another backup one. We're at 36 supply, so we build a roach farm. Oh, there's Marines out here. So I happen to notice that, which is cool. Let's click him way back, see if he comes across the map. Thankfully, we've got a Zergling there. Inject, inject, build drones, build an overlord. Click that one out over here. I want to build another overlord because we're so close to being supply capped. So notice I'm selecting, I'm going, build overlord, build overlords. And 2 more lava popped out, we got to build more. Now we're going to go gas, 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 and Blair. Now we just lost our scout, which really sucks. So let's put this Zergling back over there, and let's build a few more Zerglings. So we're going to be a little bit more reliant on actually having scout in this game. Inject, inject. Build 3 drones, click there. Build 3 drones, click there. And let's just put these guys off gas. And we want to make sure this actually sees an attack coming. So we'll leave that there. And notice we've got these Zerglings. So time to practice that cloning we were talking about. Scout, shift left click, right click, shift left click, right click, shift left click. And this guy can actually be in my arm. He'll go back home. Inject, inject. Remember, whenever you've spent a bunch of seconds doing something, guys, it's always time to macro. That's just what it is. It's time for a macro cycle. So anytime, if you guys, oh, I want to scout. I want to scout. There is a deep instinct you want to train for yourself, and that is to do the full macro cycle. Pig doesn't even take the Zelnaga towers because they don't watch anything. They're watching the edges of the map. What's the purpose? Doesn't matter. Oh, I've done my scouting. Inject, inject, build units. Those lava were just popping, and build lots of overlords. And also, okay, there's Hellions coming. Look at this ring of vision. Look how many opportunities I have to see my opponent coming for me, guys. Isn't that great? Let's make roach speed. We're going to make an overseer. Put that on my second army key. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. That's just a good habit that super pro players have. And we're queuing that through the base to see what's up. And we're kind of like, oh, where'd he go with those Hellions, man? Where'd they go? Where'd they go? Doesn't matter. Inject, inject, build roaches. Hey, let's get that third base. You notice we've been tending more and more towards not taking the 44 third and getting the gases up a bit quicker. For whatever reason, with me reading chat while I play, that's happened more and more. No extra queens, chat says. Well, like we said, if you want, we can start adding in that third queen. And this one can become the creep queen. But it really doesn't matter. We don't really want extra queens. What's its purpose? We're not really focusing on creep spread too much later. More roaches on the way. We can look at our overseer and we can go, cool, we saw a base. We don't give a shit. As I've said before, guys, all that matters is map control. See when they're pushing across the map and get a glimpse of their army. So we just saw a bunch of Marines. You guys don't know how to read into this shit? If you do want to start going a bit above and beyond, what do we look for? Is there a third command center? The answer is no, there is not. But there is a double eBay. So there's one sign of greed, but not 2 signs. So does that mean he's greedy or aggressive? It doesn't matter. There's not enough of a clear read one way or the other. It really doesn't matter. We're just going to go across and figure out what's happening with those roaches. So while we're going to the staging point outside the natural, we rally there. We build some more overlords. You can see actually the mineral patches are mining out really fast this game. They must have happened to have more workers on them than normal. And I'd love to get in there and attack, right? Oh, his army's there. Pull back. No. Inject, inject. Roaches! Add them to the control group. Let's go. And what do we do with our micro, guys? Try to ball them up. Try to ball them up first. And then move forward, move forward, move forward. Attack. Watch the roaches on the back. Once they start derping around, that's when we want to move forward. And then A move, derp forward, A move, derp forward, A move. And then if you want to get super pro, you can split it up. GG. So Yeah, you'll notice if you take the Zelnaga Towers, this map only really, it has some side paths, but there's no reason why people would go across those. And it's more important because you're not always, you very rarely have Zelnaga Towers actually watching the main paths to have scouts across the middle. And if you can get in the habit of that map presence, it's very, very powerful for when you start playing longer games. And we've made it to Gold League. So guys, I think making it to Gold League, we weren't planning to make it that far today. I need to now think about and plan how we're going to develop the next step. This is already way longer than I meant to do it for today, but we kind of got in the zone. Let's answer some questions from chat. If I missed it, repost it now. 4 queens would help zone battlecruisers. It would, but we can't counter things that haven't actually happened in the game. If we happen to see a player who didn't expand, we would have, at 3 minutes 30, said, oh, you don't have an expansion yet. We would have built a spore crawler in each base, started building some defensive units, and we would have put a bit more effort into scouting what our opponent's doing. And the thing is, if you want to actually be safe against everything, you're playing the wrong game. StarCraft is not a game about being safe. It's start with this, and then get better at sending that Overseer scout through straight away. Maybe even use the Overlord that's at their base. Send that Overseer through immediately, as soon as your layer's done. As we develop, we're going to start doing a slow Overlord sacrifice earlier in the game to try and see what the opponent's tech is. At about 3 minutes 30, just by standard, maybe 3:45, we're going to send a slow Overlord into the opponent's base. So let's actually start, we can start mapping out just a few ideas now. So kind of what's going to be the next step? Okay. Next step, Gold 3. Gold 3 onwards. So what are some things that we're going to focus on here, guys? We're going to have Overlord Sacrifice. 3:45 each game, right? To try and see what tech it is. That's going to give us a higher chance of going, oh, that's a fucking battlecruiser, isn't it? And then we can have a reaction. We see a fusion core, we build a couple extra queens and an extra spore or two. No worries. Easy peasy. Okay, cool. Oh, he's going this. You know, we can learn those reactions, but we cannot worry about these things when we're starting out. Okay? So Overlord Sacrifice. Okay. Constant ling map vision is going to be good. So we're going to try and build a few more lings and have a few more lings out there. So we're going to go 4 to 6 lings early, right? 4 to 6 lings, 4 lings early, and replace if they die. That's going to be cool. So we're going to have a bit more map vision with that. That'll be cool. I think we can use the second Overlord for the sacrifice. It'll be a good habit for us. I think that'd be a really good habit. 1 on the pillar, one comes across the sacrifice. That'll be a nice habit for us. Other than that, how about setting up for the next step? And I'm not sure how early I'll get into this. Double Evo Den. So basically, drone behind roach attack rather than rallying roaches. Okay. Double Evo plus Hydra Den. And then it'll be like about 55 drone, 55 to 60 drone, 1-1 roach Hydra timing to hit maybe 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes after the first roach attack. So we're still doing the roach attack, but we're kind of actually planning to build another round of drones behind it, maybe an extra 10 to 15 drones, transfer drones to the third, and then add hydras to it at some point. I kind of want to get to high gold before we really do that as standard, but just having a next step is going to be really nice. Early creep queen, early third creep queen to build the habit of basic creep connection, right? And using that control group. That'll be really nice. I think that'll be something we can add in as standard, right? We can introduce that concept. Apologies, guys. What else could we do? Do you have any tips for effectively increasing APM? I got a Diamond 3. I'm worried that my average APM 115 will become a problem. Just know what you're meant to do, right? It's just make sure you're batching things up. Do lots of things at once. Select all your barracks using your control group and queue up a ton of Marines. Don't be like, build a Marine, and tap it 14 times in a row once you've got 3 base production. Select your SCVs and build 4 barracks at once. Don't just build 1. Do your macro in clean, organized cycles. Focus more on efficiency, batching things together, and you will get more done. And you will find your APM naturally shoots up because you're doing more of like holding down the key to build drones or warping in 10 zealots at once and that sort of stuff. So the more, build 6 gateways in one go and then follow it up by 5 more pylons so that you don't get supply blocked once you start warping in off those gateways. So focus more on being organized and knowing what to do at each point in the game. So don't be like, how can I play faster? Organized urgency is the saying which I always refer to, which is, yeah, if you're someone who's dawdling, if your mouse is moving around the screen like this right now, okay, like get out of here. No, okay, you need urgency. You need a file it under your ass. Click spam, click spam, click spam. Like, get used to clicking faster is going to be what's going to help you out, right? But otherwise, it's about organization. It's finding those moments in the game, rewinding, and going, I had no idea what to do at this point in the game. Or this really threw me through a loop, and maybe go, what do I do against this battlecruiser? And kind of say, how can I deal with that better next time? Look at it, go, okay, pause at the moment in the game where you saw the battlecruiser and say, okay, if I was to load this replay up right now, what do I do? So we can start talking about reaction lists a little bit. How to deal with Liberator, etc., and kind of like set plays or, I took some damage. How to get, what do I do? What do I focus on? I'm so tilted and excited, right? So we can talk about that idea of like building those little lists of those points where you're unconfident in the game, and how to. Well, okay, if I were to in the replay and you write out an exact dot point list of kind of how to deal, okay, build a spore in each base, queue up extra queens, grab my existing queens, throw them all into my creep queen hotkey, bring them to my main base, and keep them behind the spore crawler, keep building overlords and drones because I tend to forget that while dealing with the battle cruiser. Watch out for the Hellion run by on the 3rd base at the same time with my Zerglings. That there is a real organized list rather than what happened in the game when you fought the battlecruiser in your main. Battlecruiser! So that's StarCraft. StarCraft it's a steady process of taking the 4,000 situations you can find yourself in and taking your response from the first time you face it to, I know what to do here. And hopefully I have earlier scouting or map vision to see it ahead of time so I have more time to react. But the point is to kind of have these little set plays for all these little situations that you find yourself in, and you slowly build that knowledge over time. What's the difference between move, a command, versus move, then stop action when progressing your army? I mean, a move is just going to tell the units at the back to run forward. So if you're far enough back, like it's just a good habit to always be a moving. You could use stop most of the time. If they're in aggro range of the enemy units, if they're close enough, they'll try to get to them anyway. But otherwise, you might have units on, say, your rally point, especially because you're control grouping eggs. You've got units rallying across the map. If you just stop command, they just stop in the middle of the map. And they're like, you've got this line of like 12 roaches in the middle of the map that are like, well, we got a stop command. And the rest of your army's fighting. Like, where's our fucking reinforced, man? Isn't the cavalry meant to be here? And the roaches are just like, no. We were told to stop command in the middle of the map. We're going to wait. You're like, oh, god damn it. Thank you so much for the love, guys. Really appreciate the subs. Let's do some shout outs in a moment. I've just been so focused on the show. We're going to give a big wave of shout outs. Isn't it rude to low-rank players to smurf your way to GM? I think so. That's why I never wanted to do it. One tree shrub. Yes. This is all going to be going up on my YouTube channel, of course, guys. Yep, absolutely. Sorry, Spam. Do you agree with the idea of just doing macros without looking at your army? If you mean using macros as in programming multiple commands into a button on your keyboard that does it for you, that is cheating. If you mean spending your money while watching your army, you can do that a little bit, But like as a Zerg, you need to go back and inject. You need to potentially at some point go start upgrades and all that sort of stuff. But as I was saying, I actually want you to tunnel vision on your army. Whether you're building units off your control groups or not while the fight's happening, that's actually something we can add as a list. Building units while watching battle, right? That's actually a good thing that we can do. Well, like, look, I don't really want to jump home because this fight isn't totally won, but there's nothing for me to do right now. All my Roach Hydra's attacking. Select my Atriot key, build a round of roaches, add them to group. Okay, continue microing. So that's absolutely a good thing to do. I hotkey my defensive queens, but not my creep spreaders. They should be the same thing, Broformist. Your defensive and creep queens are the same usually. Injecting queens are kind of separate. Maybe you're thinking of those ones in each mineral line as a defending queen. But I would not really call those a defensive queen. Those are injecting queens. But everyone organizes it differently, so maybe there's a way that makes sense for you. Queens, more queens. People were shouting for more queens. Yeah, why? What's the point, guys? Really? Queens are tanky, but they don't do damage. They're only really useful if you actually use the abilities. There's a lot of low-level players I see who build a lot of queens, and they never get any value out of them. What's your ideal composition versus bio? Says Terran Dominion. Just depends how you like to play. Ling Bane's a little easier versus some bio, but against Widow Mines it's way harder. So if they go bio mine, I'd say like Roach Hydra's way easier. If they go like bio tank, I would say Ling Bane's a little easier. Usually you always start with a solid composition that works in all situations and you just get good at that. You should choose your composition before the game starts. And against something that's a standard solid composition like, oh, it's bio or it's Zealot, Archon, Immortal, those are standard armies. Your standard plan should be just fine against that. You should only need to adapt if your opponent is doing something wild like that's Mass Void Ray. He's got 50 Dark Templar. He's only building Zealots. I should make some Banelings. Unless they're like really one-dimensional with their composition like that, your standard army should beat most things. Now, obviously, we've been doing just a mass roach attack, which is not a well-rounded army, but the point is we're attacking early enough that even if they've got Void Rays, hopefully they've only got like 2, and you just run in and kill all their probes anyway, and it should work out. The question about are you smurfing was, are we doing vibes thing where he just A moves the base and doesn't look at the army? Fuck no. I think that's an incredibly boring way to play StarCraft, and that's the big. No, not at all. Not at all. We're keeping things simple and doing it step by step, but I'm very adamant that even in Bronze League, you should be looking at your army while you're fighting. You should start learning how to divvy up your attention. We're super macro focused and super ignoring our opponent for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. And we're going to start, as we're in Gold League now, adding a little bit more map vision and awareness, but we're still super focused on what we're doing. But once you start building army, and you've got a few rounds of army out, you focus just on that army. And that is exactly what our style is here, because we want you to be developing that understanding of how to look at what's a good fight, what's a bad fight. We want you to enjoy just destroying your opponent with an overwhelming army. We also want you to have the pain of watching your roaches run into a giant army and getting killed and saying, well, this is why I needed to hit 2.5 minutes earlier, and I need to improve that early macro. So for me, this is a very much, we want short games. We want a quick, immediate feedback in terms of checking your benchmarks. We do not want you winning half-hour games. We do not want you building more than 45, at most 50 workers in the lower leagues. So this is actually very macro focused for bronze, silver, gold, to be honest. Because we're getting the workers up so early, it's super macro focused. So we're still teaching very similar skills to Vibe, but we're trying to also teach you how to attack. It's more ambitious, it's harder. It's not going to grind macro into those. So if you are not a dedicated learner, if you are not putting the effort in, you will not learn how to macro as well from this series, because Vibe lets you focus on that at the cost of everything else. And it's so good for grinding it into anybody who's struggled to get their macro up to par. Follow Vibe's method for a while. Just don't stick with it forever. Start looking at your army earlier and enjoy that micro. And enjoy learning how to use your units and adapting to different things and interacting with your opponent. So we're trying to, and as we level up, we're going to bring that interaction earlier and earlier. How about considering maps where you might want Overlord speed, or is that in Platinum? That's professional gamer Samuel Flank. There's no map where you might want Overlord speed. Fuck no, that's is that Platinum League? That's ridiculous. I coach people in Masters and GM and like, I need Overlord speed. And I shout at them and go, no, you don't. What are you doing? How often do you see pros go Overlord speed? Not that much. You can choose. If you really like Overlord speed, you can choose to do it, but you need to be very good at understanding scouting information. So if someone's not an expert at setting up their ring of overlords, at putting Zerglings out on the map, I go, what are you doing with Overlord speed? You're struggling with the basics of map control, which is the first level of scouting. You need to get map vision and map control. That's your first level of Zerg scouting. Even scouting with the Overseer that I've been doing, or Overlord speed, which is a different form of the same thing, that's way more advanced. I've been doing a little bit of, oh, I see this, oh, I see that. It's greed or it's aggression. But even that is kind of skipping way ahead. In this game, didn't you have extra minerals for queens? Nope. And what do the queens give for you? Those hatcheries are just extra building in addition to everything you did. But what are the queens going to do for you? Were you going to use those extra 300 minerals after those roaches with your bank? Well, so the whole point is once you're building roaches, you're not wasting your time building things. If you do want to spend your money, that's a different thing. We're banking because we're focusing on our army, because we're focusing hard on that. And if we're going to do something, we're going to do double Evo and Hydra Den is what we're going to talk about as the next step, guys. But what do queens do for you? Why are you building queens? That's the big thing. People are like, but you can just build them. They just build. What do they do? They just sit there. They don't do anything. Until you become an absolute expert, you only need one creep queen until you become much higher level. And it's past the point where they're useful for defense. You're much better off building more roaches or more hydras. So it just doesn't do anything. It just kind of, what do the queens achieve, right? There needs to be a purpose to what we're doing. So if you're building queens at the start of the game, like Jade is saying, they can hold off early game attacks. They really don't do it very well. Queens are they're decent tanky units, but they're very mineral heavy. And that means slowing down our roaches. It means slowing down our attack. Queens are very good if you're dropping transfuses and you're getting them out early. And learning how to use queens is good in itself. It's so passive though. You need to know how to use them. It's a skill we can develop for sure, but it's not as useful as learning how to actually attack and kill our opponent. Because the more queens you build, the more you're stuck in a long game. Those queens cannot be aggressive. Those queens cannot be used to attack. Walking them across the map, very slow, doesn't work against a lot of things. Right? If they're not building void rays, walking queens across the map. So you're building a purely defensive unit, which costs a ton of minerals, does very little damage, and is very reliant on spell casting to be effective. Learning how to get a third queen out, absolutely important. But what's way more important than learning how to use that unit is learning how to control group our eggs and learning how to do a macro cycle. That is so much more important. That is the priority, because if you can get GM without using queens, and that is the reason why I am not talking about using queens. It's why I'm just introducing the early third creep queen. And then as we get to platinum and beyond, we might basically platinum is probably where we're going to branch into a different build for each matchup. And that's where it's like, oh God, there's a blossoming of things going on in our understanding, in our knowledge. We're going to have notes on 3 different build orders. They might come from the same beginning, but they're going to go in 3 very different directions. And the Terran one will likely have a lot of queens, right? Because we love queens versus Terran. They're also pretty good versus Protoss as well, right? They're not the greatest versus Zerg. So that's going to be huge. Did Pig say control group lava? Control group your eggs. Yeah, I may have said lava. I meant eggs. So I really think that's going to be huge. I think you're underestimating a lot of your audience's Bastion. Well, the thing is, I'm not, because I've coached so many thousands of players. If you're in Gold League, spreading creep is such a bonus mechanic. It's such a bonus mechanic. It is nice to do, but it's not something that you want to focus on. So you'll notice that me and Vibe have 2 very similar things in common, guys. We're going to tell you to ignore parts of the game, because the most important thing in any strategy game is you need to put your blinders on and focus on 1 or 2 things at a time and get good at those and make those subtle underlying muscle memory. If you focus on too many things at once, you will not do that, and you will stagnate as a player, because nothing becomes automatic and the game becomes stressful and overwhelming. Strategy games when you watch an expert, it is absolutely amazing. Go watch an expert civilization player play a game of Civ on fucking deity versus, you know, with all the difficulty turned up and everything. You're like, what the hell? How does he know how all these things interact? It's all just pattern recognition in his brain, knowing that this can lead into that and that's good for that. And all the connections are there and they're familiar. And that's what we need to focus on. We need to be making this familiar as a player so that we can kind of have the game become automatic. StarCraft is so fucking stressful if you're trying to learn 7 different things at once. It's not fun. Whereas if you can focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, this is really good. So this is a fucking mundane game plan, making roaches and attacking, but it's the right one to help us work on our fundamentals. We've gotten to gold. We're going to evolve it. We're going to move to the next level. We're going to have creep spread from 1 queen. We've got to gold 3. We're going to add all these other things in here. I still don't like queens for defense. I think understanding the power of the other units is really good. Yeah. And this is going to be fantastic. All of this, I think this is going to be good. What do you mean control group eggs? You're going to need to watch the first episode. It'll be up on YouTube. We talk about it at the very start. You can type !fundamentals. And that is a very useful mechanic. When should you build spores and spines instead of more queens, says Bradley. Well, in general, I'm saying don't build more queens. We're just going to focus on army. Army. The only reason why you would build spores and spines is if there's a big scary attack coming, you think you can't handle it. And if that's the case, you've got excess money after building your roaches, your overlords, injecting. Well, shit, I'm so afraid of this attack. Drop some spines behind my mineral line. That's the only time. Static defense is a terrible crutch that a lot of noobs use way too much, and it makes you a worse player over time. We are on a no static diet, other than a spore crawl. A spore crawl is in specific situations, or maybe one of the safety timings. No. You don't need so much gas unless you're going to make ravages. Absolutely. We were keeping things nice and simple with the build order. We were saying we're just going to take 2 bases, 4 gases. And this is a nice way of simplifying things so that we can just kind of saturate 2 bases, take the 3rd. We're not having to go back and then, there's a gas missing in my main that I didn't take. Shit, I didn't do this. We were just like saturate 2 full bases, really simple as one set piece. And then we can move to the 3rd in the next sesh. And it's going to be a while till we start doing like pulling off gas and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be kind of crazy. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging. Appreciate the love. I'm going to take a nice long 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute break. And when I'm back, we're going to do some awesome ladder. So don't go anywhere. I hope you enjoyed this session of B2GM. Catch you next one.